Hi, folks. Welcome to Code and Concrete, where we share the latest trends and the stories of trailblazers in the built environments. I'm your host, Matthew Schneider, the CEO at Building Inc. Joining us today, I have two phenomenal guests for you, Paul Eckert and Robert Austin. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. I'm looking forward to diving into what you're working on.
Hey, really nice to meet you. Again, Safepro Technologies, Robert and myself have been working on Safepro Technologies for a long time now. Our passion to save lives is very intense, and we're always working on this project, and we are ready to win and fight back against active shooter. So thanks for having us. Give a quick information about myself, and then we'll turn it over to Robert. Again, I'm Paul Eckert. I'm the founder of the company. My passion after a 20-year law enforcement career was active shooter response, and I trained it. And I learned that we just weren't doing enough to fight back against this terrible thing called active shooter. It's ripping our communities apart and households, and it breaks our hearts. So Robert and I are here to fight back and win at active shooter, because it's just getting so bad. So with that being said, I really intensified active shooter response training with law enforcement officers, and I found out that the human brain just doesn't function under that amount of stress. And when we have to go to this call and we have to win, we need to be ready. Unfortunately, we don't get a lot of training. Budgets are tough. So sometimes we're just not prepared enough to do well in that active shooter response. I had officers coming up to me and saying, Paul, I can't hear where the shots are coming from. And it was really hard to tactically maneuver through that situation. And so I said to myself, I'm like, okay, we have to think for individuals in real time. I got kids, Robert has kids, and they're not tactical. And we have law enforcement officers that were on the job for 25 years, and they're coming to me, and they're just not doing well, even in the training environment when we amplified it up. So, watching them struggle in that training makes me feel like when the real thing is happening, that we would really make bad mistakes during that and not get to that threat as fast as possible. So I really thought this through, and I said, okay, how do we get this information to the people that are involved in real time as fast as possible and think for individuals, because the human brain isn't going to work correctly. And what I came up with was, we have to communicate. We have to show images on the wall. We have to push people away from danger, because separation is key when it comes to active shooter and just dangerous event responses. So you got ground zero in any dangerous event, and that could be a fire, that could be a chemical spill, but it starts somewhere. The active shooter starts somewhere. And we have to get to that dangerous event, the people that are responding, and stop it. And then we got to push the people that are victims away from that dangerous event. And our passion is active shooter, but our technology falls under everything. It falls under any dangerous event, weather, because pushing and separation is what we need. What I really came up with is, we have to pick up the dangerous event as fast as we can. We have to immediately push people away from that danger, and that's arrows and X's on the floor and sidewalls in a hallway. And then it also puts an in-room indicator light this is really important for the teachers and the staff to know that dangerous event has immediately occurred, and put that in motion of what they're supposed to do. And that in-room indicator light immediately tells them to lock down and stay in place and stay in a safe environment. And then if it's a evacuational purpose, it will tell them to evacuate in green, and then follow the arrows to the closest exit. So this is that smart kind of city building. That this is the future of the exit sign, and it really is going to draw attention. And we are so excited to get this out because we know we have that one key component that's going to fight back. And I know that I got into a lot there because I get passionate. Look at Robert he's just like, I want to talk too, but Robert, you're coming in this conversation very soon. I've been working on this for so long with Robert. And as you can tell in my voice, we are so passionate because we are so excited on where we're at in our technology and where it's going. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's a little bit about myself.
Yeah. So Robert, want to tell us about your background a little bit?
I'm Robert Austin with Safepro Technologies, and like Paul, my background is law enforcement. I first started in law enforcement in 2002. I'm still active duty. I'm currently a command level supervisor. Early on in my career, I became an active shooter instructor, and I've been doing that ever since. I sort of stuck with that aspect because it's near and dear to my heart. I'm kind of passionate about it. Early on, I also started to specialize in the civilian response to active shooter events. And a lot of that was school safety stuff. So I'd go to the schools and I would teach the teachers and administrators active shooter response. And the majority of the active shooter response curriculums are some variation of run, hide, fight. And that's really been the main staple of civilian response for a long time. And the question I most often got was, how do I know when to run and when to hide? And our answer has never really been that good. It's, you know, use your eyes and ears, figure out what's around you, make good tactical decisions, right? But that's a problematic answer to give to civilians because one, teachers want to teach, right? They're not tactical officers. They don't naturally think that way. And two, the human body under enormous amounts of stress just doesn't make good decisions. So that's why I think this product is so helpful, not only for schools, but any larger facilities or businesses, because it helps think for the individual.
This is an interesting episode for us because it's the first time that we've really been at the crossroads of buildings, building safety, but then also crisis and crisis response. And so for a lot of folks, this is the first time that they've heard of a concept like this. We often assume, the worst is not going to happen. Do we have to go so far as to implement a solution like this until it's extremely necessary? And as Paul alluded to earlier, it's not just active shooters. It could also be, say, a catastrophic weather event that's occurring or some sort of, say, gas leak in the building. I'm sure you could have IoT that identifies that levels are off and we need to start evacuating people. And once that evacuation process starts, that's when the panic sets in. Oh, something is going wrong. Well, now all of a sudden I don't know what I'm doing. It's just like on airplanes. You can go on airplanes as many times as you want and they tell you right where the life vest is. And then as soon as, it's time to act, they panic. They don't know what to do. Where's the life vest? It's under your seat. But even something as simple as that can be overlooked. And I think a really good example is actually recording a podcast. Going into this, as soon as it's lights, cameras, action, even simple lines, what I have to do, introduce people or in a public speaking setting, you start to freeze up a little bit. Like the human response, when the adrenaline enters our system, we just stop the critical thinking. And so using technology to guide people when it matters most is extraordinary and implementing it right into our environment. And that's why this solution really caught my attention. Plus, you use the visual elements, sound cues, AI, lots of different things going on here to make sure that when you push this in a building and you're pushing people, like you're telling people go this way or that, you have the best intelligence to inform them and not only promoting their safety, but ensuring it throughout the timeline of that crisis. So interesting question for both of you. Just starting off on the entrepreneurial sides, how has it been moving from law enforcement, or I guess in this case, Robert, you're still active, but into the startup realm? What's that been like for you both?
Actually, can I jump in and just piggyback off something you said quick? Because that made me think, and that's an interesting concept when you talk about, yes, these are low frequency events, but extremely high risk events. And that's something we deal with oftentimes in law enforcement too, like officer involved shootings, but still something you need to train for. And I kind of equate it to school fires, right? Every school is required to have smoke and fire detectors and response and notification systems, but our students aren't dying in school fires and haven't for decades now. But since Columbine, over 500 people have died in school shootings. And we don't really have a good system in place or a code in place to say all new facilities should have something like a notification or evacuation system in a really dangerous event. So, yes, it's low frequency, but we're talking about the lives and in school shooting cases, unfortunately, the lives of some of the most vulnerable among us. So, that I think is a structural change that maybe could come from government bodies and code enforcement and things like that, new facilities. So that just got me thinking. I know I went off on a bit of a side street there.
No, it's good because you mentioned code enforcement, and code is right in the name of the podcast. A lot of people think of programming, but it's also codifications, building codes, and thinking about how should we design and build things that are good for people, that are more efficient, that are smarter and safer. So it aligns perfectly what you've just said. Going back into the transition, how has that transition been from maybe law enforcement line of duty to building a startup and having to think about product, other people, technology, sales, and marketing? How's that been?
It's been an emotional roller coaster, but I'm going to tell you that this has been great for me, and I think Robert could say the same thing. I've learned a lot being in law enforcement for 20 years, learning that side of it, really getting the good information that's needed, hands-on information that sometimes people just don't get, and then I can bring that into the safety world and actually put it in motion, because we got a lot of great minds in law enforcement, and sometimes they're just stuck in that moment of what they do. But I'm going to tell you, a lot of law enforcement officers, they're very good at thinking on their feet. They get things done, and that's just my little shout out to law enforcement because they do such a good job. And having the ability to learn that for 20 years, be around good people, was very helpful in my journey to becoming an entrepreneur. And what I do know, then Robert will contest to this, is we don't stop. We're go-getters. We just keep it moving. And sometimes that's not in everybody's mindset. And I'm lucky enough to have one of the best teams around me. I think that me and Robert have done a really good job finding the people that we want to be around with and work with every day. And I think that's super helpful. So that was my main focus because Safepro was so important for us to get out there, but it was also important for my mental stability, like in my work that I do. And I think that that's important because you get into potential bad situation at work and you can't get yourself out of it. So this is my day to day life that me and Robert do this every day, and it has to be enjoyable. And I think that when you find that enjoyability and you have that passion for it, it's not really going to work. And I'm going to tell you, Robert and I, this has been a roller coaster. The funding issues, the prototypes, the long night discussions on how the system is directly going to work. I couldn't ask for a better team, better partner. So with that being said, becoming an entrepreneur has been a blessing for me. It makes me wear a lot of hats. It makes me stay on my toes. And there's things that when I'm not good at something, you put that team around you that's better than you at that specific thing. And that's why me and Robert work so well together, because we combat everything and work together. And if you don't have that in your system at work, you lose. But the entrepreneur side of things, the financials, that was a little different because I really didn't have to worry about financials as a police officer. But thank God I got Robert. One thing that I believe that we're good at, Robert and I, because we have the ability from, what we've done for so long, and that's read people, read the room, know what you're getting into. And I think that that's been helpful in business, because business is a situation where it's a mental game, and you have to really work around different personalities and who you can trust. And so the safety industry, we're going to make a huge splash here, and we are excited about it, and we're going to do things right. So the entrepreneurship and the businessman, I'll wear that hat all the way to the end.
For me, I actually, as I promoted up through the police department, I went back to school. I got a business degree in business administration, and I've been doing budgets and project management for some time at the PD. So there's some crossover there, but it's different. A startup is just way, way different than an established business or a police department. So Google is my friend. I don't know how to do it bookkeeping or, tons of government regulations and what to pay and where and how you got to do all that. That's a very steep learning curve. But I think we're pushing through it pretty well. I think a lot of it's mental toughness. Problems are going to come up every single day. You just got to work on them every single day. So we're pretty stubborn that way.
Yeah, I love that. And although there's a lot of challenges in building a startup in an era of Google and ChatGPT, we can quickly ask a question and you don't have to build a relationship. You don't have to pay someone. You don't have to dive into a library book to figure it out. We can resolve some of these things in 30 seconds. I wish that a lot of what we have in the real world, because it's one thing sitting behind a screen doing something like spreadsheets, but there aren't simple solutions like that in something tactical like this. So let's dive into how can we simplify crisis response. And Paul, you mentioned earlier, some of the elements that you've built into this that would help direct people identify, hey, there's a threat over here. You should be proceeding that way. How do we make it stupid simple so that when we need to act, we don't have to think, we can simply follow protocol using Safepro? Want to walk us through how you implement this and how it interacts with people?
Exactly. Yes. And this is interesting that you bring that up, the simplifying things. When I invented it, a lot of people came up to me and said, this is so simple. I mean, and simple works. And to have a technology that, people indicate it's simple, but it truly is. It's very intuitive. It thinks for individuals. And what it does is, we have our shot detection. Our shot detection picks up the bullet, and then it relays that information to our Soteria system. And our Soteria system is the lights in the hallway. So, and that's a laser unit that actually projects arrows and X's on the floor and sidewalls and gives you a visual key on exactly what to do. And that's go away from the danger. So everybody's been looking at arrows their whole life. It's easy to follow. Everybody knows what an X is. A red X is not good. And then having the availability, if you're in a classroom and not in the hallway, to immediately get that audio information that there is a dangerous event and you need to lock down. I don't know how it can become any easier than that. And I'm glad that we have this, because it's going to change the way we handle safety. And that's why we're so excited, because it's simple, but it's effective.
Yeah, I'll say that we all know what the animal instinct responses are in human beings, right? It's fight, flight, or freeze, essentially. And those are panic responses. And that happens in law enforcement too. Again, that's something we have to inoculate ourselves from. And that panic response comes from essentially not having a plan. If you have pre-planned practice responses, again, I keep going back to it because this is how law enforcement is taught. When I get a call, and there's maybe a guy with a knife at a house, and when I'm on my way out to that call, I'm not like listening to the radio and updating my Pinterest board. I'm thinking of everything I might find when I get out there and what I'm going to do with that particular situation. What if I get out there and everything's quiet and I don't see anybody? What if people are screaming and running all over the place? What if the guy with the knife is in the front yard? What if he's in the doorway with the person? Whatever that situation is, I'm thinking through every single one I can come up with and then thinking through what my best response is going to be. And I do that so when I get on scene, I can take in what I'm seeing, put it into one of the categories I've already thought through, and go right to immediate action and hopefully save lives. So that pre-planned practice response, giving somebody a plan, cuts through all that panic. So in this case, in the panic of an emergency event, say at a school, well, when something really intuitive, like when a green arrow flashes on the wall, you don't have to think about what that means. You know what green means instinctively, intuitively, and you know what arrows mean intuitively. So having that plan sort of right there on the wall in front of you, oh, green arrow this way, I'll go that way. That cuts through that panic and that panic response of fight, flight, or flee, where people are sort of given this easy to follow direction in a panic situation.
Absolutely. And it goes back to the whole idea of how do we simplify something, because you have two options. Either you do teach people the procedures or you offer them some sort of tool. And the same way we don't want to become attorneys and accountants and project managers, in addition to many different roles, to teach school children. I mean, you could teach them the flee, but how do you teach fight? And how do you prevent freeze? Like, or teachers, you said it earlier, teachers are there to teach. They're not there to be law enforcement, right? Essentially, or first responders. So giving people the tools so that they can focus on what they want or what's most important to them, what they're best at. And you can think of this at scale, because while we're applying this to schools, we could also think about offices or stadiums, any sort of large venue where you're going to have a lot of different people. You know, when I go to a venue, of course, there's exit signs, and you can see there's the exit signs here, but I'm there to network, or I'm there to speak, or I'm there to do business. I'm not thinking about, all right, who's the threat here? How do I quickly evade this? Or what do I have to do during a fire? People just aren't programmed to that. And I think a solution like this, it's not just efficiency, but it's offering peace to people.
This particular topic, the training can actually create the anxiety as well. It's not a altogether uncommon response that somebody goes through this training. This is difficult topic material to discuss and to think about and talk about. And the training itself can cause anxiety and some stress response. So again, this is just an intuitive way to kind of cut through all of that.
I want to
Absolutely.
piggyback on that real quick. And one thing that Robert and I found out on our startup journey with this product is truly what also we get from this is it's not when it happens, we're going to help and navigate through that and fight back against active shooter. But the training aspect of this is so huge. Robert and I have seen that, schools, other even buildings, factories, they just don't have the tools or the ideas to train correctly and get people ready for an incident like this. And what we're excited about is we give them a kid-friendly, slowing the brain down option that doesn't scare individuals. And we actually are going to put this in motion because we're not doing enough training. Schools are just not doing it. And I think it's important that we have to start. And what this does is we have that option in our portal that if you are authorized as a facilities leader or superintendent or even a facilities manager, if you have the ability, you could train by just turning our system on. And once that system's on, they kind of have the ability to follow it. It doesn't have the mind race, but it gets people thinking about how to be better when that situation occurs. And that, I think, is one of the biggest things we get out of this because it puts the training back in motion, but doesn't put people in a fear mode.
Right. The context to why the arrows are now on the wall is pretty important. And like you said, here, the arrows are on the wall. Let's go through just making our way outside of this building. And again, this could be any sort of building, it sounds like. I think factories are a great example, or even an apartment complex. There's been some news around the world recently of buildings that caught on fire, and it led to a great number of deaths. And it's because doors lock, people can't use elevators. What happens next? Is the fire above or below us? Where do we go from here? And having additional information so that people can make informed decisions is extraordinarily important in all sorts of environments. And the more people, the more important it is to have something like this in place for a couple of reasons. One, the scale of atrocity, but two, because when you add in the rush of people, some folks are going left, some folks are going right. You're getting mixed signals, mixed information about what's actually happening. You need something to cut through the noise. And they often say you want to be signal within the noise. And this is a literal signal, either a visual cue or audio or maybe a platform. Like it becomes a source of truth amidst the chaos that people can fall back on and say, whatever, I'm following what's on the wall. I know that's the shortest and safest way to the exit.
Robert, do you have anything to add to that? I just like we talk about every day how we are so blessed that we have the ability to train for individuals because we know how the pain points behind the training. As much as you can get up in front of a class, teachers they take it serious. They want to win, but they don't want to think about it, and they want that security blanket. And I think that our product does that for them. It really helps them feel like there's someone that has their back. And I think right now we just aren't doing enough for staff and our employees. So having the training aspect, I think it's going to put it in motion too, that this is important and we need to do more of it. And it's not overwhelming. And I think that it's going to be so much easier for facilities managers and schools to get around that panic of training for active shooter, because no one's talk about it. Can't put a Band-Aid on it anymore. We have to fix this problem. And this will motivate individuals to trigger the system and train it, and then talk about it if needed, because this isn't going away. And so we have some here from start to finish.
100%. So on that note, brief question: are you guys looking at different types of buildings, different types of facilities? Is it primarily schools at this point, or do you have like a second type of property that you'd like to roll this solution out in?
So I'll go real quick, Robert. I know you can piggyback off of this one, but for us, our passion when we came up with this idea was for children, because those are the ones that are getting hurt the most on here. But realistically, this is happening in every place, employment, where we work, hospitals, stadiums, casinos, where there's people, there could be an active shooter. And so we are in the market for everybody. It's not just schools. Yes, we want to get to schools as soon as possible. I mean, because we have to. But any building that has human traffic has this product has to be in there.
Right. Robert, anything you want to add?
No, that's exactly it. I mean, I think active shooter became kind of a thing, obviously a passion of ours because of school shooters. But as time goes on, what we find is not only are they increasing in frequency, sadly, but the percentage of them at schools is actually decreasing. The greater percentage of current active shooter events are in the business setting, where we shop, where we go to our movies, where we go out to eat, or our own personal places of work. So not just schools at all. Any large building or facility really across the world could benefit from a system like this.
An interesting perspective that I'd like to bring to the table, and maybe you've thought about this, maybe not, is in addition to what your solution can offer, what Safepro can do for an existing building, we also have to think about how we're designing buildings in the first place. Like, what is our crisis response if there's a fire here, if there's an active shooter? What are the critical points? What are the areas of failure? Where are the areas of congestion? How have you seen that different types of buildings, different types of design elements have created potentially more conflict when responding to crisis? Has there been anything that stands out? It's like, you're on the job. Wow, this was really stupid. Why is this designed this way? Why is it set up this way? This is a critical failure point for everyone involved.
One thing that just popped into my mind when you said that is schools are interested in security. They're pretty good at access control and stopping unauthorized individuals from coming in. But when you look at, say, crime prevention through environmental design, maybe not so much. They like aesthetics, right? So glass, all glass front doors are a big thing, and they'll put wraps on them, or they'll put some bullet resistant stuff to slow individuals down, but that doesn't really stop anybody from getting through. So I think that while there is some consideration given to that, most of the time that's kind of lower on the list. How do we prevent somebody from getting in? It's more about what looks good in a design. So that one just popped into my mind because that's a bigger trend right now, all glass fronts.
Well, that being said, how do you balance design and aesthetics? Because we don't want schools to look like prisons. So what's the trade-off, do you think?
That is an absolute, sounds like such a simple question. There is a ton to that, because it depends on what your environmental design looks like there. It depends on what kind of security apparatus or personnel you have in place inside of that building. You're exactly right. We don't want our schools to look like prisons, and we don't want to have to think about school safety every day, all day. The kids are there to learn. The teachers are there to teach. But kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have to feel safe before you can learn. So I do think that there's a place here where school safety needs to be a primary consideration. And again, the individuals or schools that are going with the glass front, a lot of them are putting a wrap on so you can't see from the outside in, or they're looking at the films to reduce the impact of gunfire and the ability for individuals to get in.
I agree with that 100%. The only, with new construction, I think it's important for new construction to really break down what safety needs that they're looking for, and find new technology that works. And what's the most important to them. One thing I'd like to push with new infrastructure, and even infrastructure that's already in place. Running PoE more than the next. Like more PoE cables in for upcoming products that you'd like to put into your school. Make it easier, make it fast. If you're running wire, you might as well run 10 PoEs, so they're just there. I know it probably have an upfront cost of that, but in the back end, I think they would save money by having the ability to put in place new technology, and having PoE cables is one of them.
There's a variety of technology opportunities that could be implemented, whether it's software or physical, like cables, or ways to design these, or different types of glass. There's a lot of different ways that we can get creative, but then also use that to our advantage. I mean, thinking about the wraps, we know that it can add colorful elements to, say, the outside of a building, so that it doesn't just look like you're walking into a gray box. But it does have that benefit that from the outside, with a combination of the light and just how our eyes perceive the wrap patterns, you can't see in, but it allows people inside to see out. So there's cool quirks and illusions and technology innovation that can be rolled out. And I think that's a really good point. And I don't know how often the conversation of public safety is brought up in the design process, because often when people think of codifications, they're thinking fire codes, or is this a wetlands? Like, what do I have to be conscientious of what's being built there? But you forget about the people elements. Like, what do they want to see? What offers them comfort walking into this? And some of it's because it can't be monetized. And a lot of these public facilities, like, you can't charge more for a brewer's ticket because it's a safer building. So why should I invest into the technology? Versus, if I don't meet the fire code, I get fined. Or if this is ugly, people don't want to attend the games. They're going to watch it on the TV.
Yeah, and some like the wraps you bring up is a double-edged sword, right? So as a law enforcement officer, I think, what am I going to do tactically coming up to an emergency event in that school? And that's great that a bad guy can't see in and the good guys can see out. But if the bad guy's already in the school and now law enforcement is coming up to an all glass front that they can't see into, tactically, that's a really difficult situation for us to overcome. So I think it's always good to have that law enforcement perspective when you're designing these public facilities. As far as, say the Brewers can charge more for a safe game, true. But there is cost to these events when they do happen. Lawsuits, obviously, loss of revenue. It's kind of like an insurance policy, right? And not only can you tout your building or facility as safe ahead of time, but if it helps mitigate the damage, that cost is going to be made up tenfold on the back end. These events always have massive lawsuits and of course loss of life on the back end. So it is an insurance policy. I think it's well worth it.
For sure, for sure. That was one of the things that came to mind. I think that's a great point. Another, thinking about technology that could assist in this, digital twins are becoming more important. A lot of old buildings don't have a digital twin. And when I say digital twin, we're thinking of a 3D model, say on a piece of software, where I can look at a building and maybe it's real time. So maybe I can navigate the halls virtually, or I can see, if Safepro is installed and perhaps you partner with a software company that provides digital twins. As I roll up to the scene, I can pull up, oh, I know exactly it's room A12 that is compromised right now. Well, where is that and what's the fastest route to get there? So digital twins, especially in construction, but for elements like this, and that goes back to the smart city philosophy, are becoming more important because it adds that eye in the sky idea. And a big portion of that is also CCTV. Now, in many cases, you can only access that after the fact. Maybe there would be privacy concerns of, can we look into the halls in real time and identify this person? And I'm sure there'd be a lot of pushback. What if it gets hacked? Like, we don't want people spying on our kids. So there's always this dichotomy of transparency, privacy, safety, all these different elements that we're trying to balance. And it goes back to the design portion. How do you make something that's appealing, but then also safe? And it's all gray territory. Like everything that we're working in, there's no clear answer, and there's opinions on both sides. But I do think what you have enables safety, doesn't compromise privacy, and then also adds in that element of efficiency in response time and execution of a crisis response plan.
I totally agree with you. And we need to get better, working together. Different products need to come together to make something that is completely working right. So with that being said, I think, AI cameras, I think they're going to be very helpful, for our system also. And, pairing up with a good camera, is important to us, and other options, because we do from start to finish the separation and the evacuation and the visual guidance, and that's what we do. But we don't do the other things. We'd love to get in contact more with fire control. Fire control would work great with us. How do we make ourselves compatible with them? So I guess the open communication between fire and the Soteria system or evacuational systems, because the stagnant exit sign, it's just not doing it, and that's why we're here. And so let's just get what technology is supposed to make the future better. And this product does that. So now we really just do need, great products coming together, making the best safety options possible.
Well, let's talk about the future and interoperability. 10 years from now, what does a fully integrated intelligent response system look like? What's that utopian vision that you guys have for Safepro and the ecosystem, the cities that it is protecting?
Robert, you want me to take this one?
Oh, finally you made Paul speechless here. Well, I think that, we've kind of danced all around it, but this sort of all-encompassing system, right? Paul just talked about AI cameras, which are great, but they generally don't cover every inch of a facility, right? But they're certainly a part of the solution. Some of these things can now detect latent prints of a weapon underneath clothing, right? That's great. Now we can start to combat this ahead of time. I think certainly a notification evacuation system like we've tried to make it as much self-contained as we can. So you talk about 3D maps. We do have the capability of doing some 3D maps. They're not like the digital duplicates like you're talking about. But certainly an officer pulling up to the scene can access our 3D maps and say, oh, this is where the shot came out, and this is where the event happened. We've got notification directly to law enforcement. We have dashboards that can be accessed by administration or individuals who are running the facilities. And all of that is a part of it. I think the other part is going to be good guys with guns, good guys on scene. That's what really stops these threats. So while I think our system is super important and a big part of it, we don't stop an active shooter, right? The good guys have to do that. So how do they pinpoint where the bad guy is? How do they get notified faster? Because seconds count, right? That's sort of a cliche, but in an active shooter situation, these things are over usually rather quickly. But every second that goes by is another second that innocent people can be killed. So I think really our utopia would be an all-encompassing situation or rather solution, or several solutions that all come together to work together and really provide a very safe environment for people. Unfortunately, there's costs to all of that. So there's this cost benefit analysis that everybody's got to do. And that's, again, another reason that we've tried to make ours as self-contained as possible. So we don't have to go in and say, hey, we think Safepro Soteria system is a great solution when you combine it with this, this, and this, because you're going to lose people that way. And we want them to have something, the best that they can have.
It is the dream, though, for sure. I mean, I work with a lot of folks in smart cities. It's not its own industry, but really a conglomerate of different ideas, concepts. You talk about environment, transportation, design, people, all these different things coming together. And the reality is that it takes multiple parties, multiple companies, and solutions working in harmony. That's what makes it smart. The fact that it's an ecosystem, it's collaborative, it's different elements that are interoperable. Because we can't build it all, and it's greater than just a technology solution. It's also who has to physically be there, who has to respond, what training do they have, what's causing these crises or crises to occur in the first place. How do we address that? How do we build the buildings? Even public transportation or transportation methods at large, where you have groups of people coming together, getting on a train, getting on a bus, standing in a subway. Like, these are all different areas that could stand to benefit from a solution like this as well. But it just requires a myriad of industries and professionals, different backgrounds coming together. For example, you need a civic engineer who says, I want to think about how we can exit safely hundreds of people from this building really quickly. And if it's just a sidewalk in front of that building and then a busy road, you've not created an environment where people can get out. Now you've created more elements for possible safety concerns, especially if something, maybe it's not an active shooter, it's a fire. Well, if the building above is on fire and people are exiting the building, they have to go somewhere else. They have to go blocks away. So there's just all of this orchestration that's required. And that's why I love having this type of conversation. It might be law enforcement, first responders, but it's a piece of the puzzle in how to build better cities. And that's what I'm all about. And that's why I love it.
And I think people have to have the will, right? I mean, we see this all the time, the silos where, nope, this is my piece and I don't want you anywhere near it and I don't want to tell you about it because I don't want you to take it from me. And,
Right.
From the beginning, we made our system very agnostic where we can plug in with any other system's API. And we did that just for this reason that we don't want to have to say, oh, it's, we only work with this company or with this company. We want to be able to work with whoever's out there that wants to pair up with us. We just want to be a part of the solution. And we think we've got a good part of it here. And we're really willing to connect up with anybody else who's interested in public safety and keeping people safe. That's our goal.
Awesome. Well, as a call to action, how can folks reach out to you guys and get involved? And is there anything in particular that would benefit Safepro right now? Are you fundraising? Are you looking for partners, clients, pilot projects?
Yes, I'll start this, and Robert will piggyback again. So we are working on this every day, and because we know we have some stuff so important here. So our needs, we are actively funding. But the most important, we need people to know about us. We need to know how Safepro is going to be so effective, and we need the public to know that. So having the ability to network this product is super important to us. We're working on 2 pilots right now, or 1 pilot right now, and we'd love to have more, and then piggyback right into a complete install. We're just ready to amp this up. And having these podcasts, I think, are super important for us. Robert?
Well, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, I'll just say that you caught us at a good time. We're really, we would have been finished up already. And then we moved into, like I said, expanding our system out to a shot detection component as well, which originally we were going to pair up with a third party. And we're just now finishing that up too. So we're pretty close to hitting the ground running. We are looking for our first install, and we want a little slow growth here because we want to do a first install and really test that system as thoroughly as we can and make sure that we're putting out the best product that we can, because, obviously it's a business and we care about making profit, but that's not why we got into this. So we want to make sure the system's good. It's going to save lives. And from then, once we get that first full install tested, we're looking for customers and like Paul said, just to get to know people. And so they know us and start getting this as in many facilities as we can.
Fantastic. I'll have links to your social medias as well as SafePro's website so that people can investigate what you're working on and hopefully reach out and try to collaborate in some way. This has been a really good conversation. I appreciate both of you guys coming on and sharing your backgrounds, sharing your passion, and how you're making the world a better place.
Thanks, man. We appreciate it.
We could talk about this stuff all day. It's just it's what we think about nonstop. So it's nice to sometimes tell somebody other than Paul.
Hey, that's the life of a founder for sure.
So
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Until next time, then.